So this customer is doing two 8x16 elite greenhouses. And so we can show that obviously we've got one partially built to my right here. This one just has the nib wall. So I wanted to show this because this is the what you're gonna do if you're getting an elite greenhouse. You as the customer are gonna first have this nib wall built. We're gonna be putting the base of the greenhouse directly on top of this nib wall here. They first poured the concrete footing, and then they've done a rendered brick wall over the top of it. So this customer has done an excellent job of having their nib wall perfectly level. So we have a great space to work on top of. As you can see, this is an extension size greenhouse, being an 8x16. So they also have these partition wall bases in here. So this is what the partition wall is going to sit on top of, and it comes out about 1/2 meter from the inside. They've also run some cable here so they can have power in their greenhouse. As you can see today, it's a bit foggy and overcast, and so the nib wall is pretty damp. So we're just leaving the plastic underneath to keep these dry, because we're going to be putting that foam seal that Levi's got over there, and we just want to make sure the base pieces are dry so that it will stick properly to the base. All right, so we have our 608s sitting just on top of the base piece here, and they have slots in them. It's handy to just lay them out because then we can see where we're gonna slide all of our W05A brackets to. So like I said earlier, these are the hex head ones. The only place we use the hex heads is in the base. So we're just starting to slide in all of these hex brackets into position. And we're also allowing for every other one is going to be going the opposite direction because it's going to be attaching down to the nib wall below. So I'm just getting these hex heads lined up in the bolt channel. This is one that's going down. It's going to be flush with the nib wall here. So I'm doing every other. There's one that's going to go up to attach to the upright, and then one that's going to go down to attach to the base or to the nib wall. So now the guys are getting up the corner uprights. They've got them braced with the 608s, and they're getting the extension uprights in the middle. Okay, as you can see, we've got the base down, we've got the brackets on, brace joined, and we've got the corner uprights and the partition wall uprights. So this is your 505 partition wall that joins this one 8-foot section to the other 8-foot section, or whatever configuration that you have if you have an extension size. Also the inner gutters up here, they both attach. They're two separate sections. They attach to the 505 profile here. And then it's also braced to the base as well. So that's how we get the extension wall, partition wall started here. And these two particular screws that Robbie's going to put on either side of this door frame are not in the instruction manual because it depends a little bit on what the customer's used for the nib wall. So we're basically just putting in some screws to stabilize it down towards the bottom exactly into place as we want it. And obviously depending on whether you have a timber or block nib wall, you're going to use different types of screws here. He's pulled it away from the wall just a little bit with the wedge of wood so that he doesn't drill through, because he's just using this bigger drill for the hole for the access port.
So the doors are pretty critical. I like to start by just sitting them somewhere, either like it is on the trailer or where they're going to be hung, just to make sure everything's around the right way. You've got your inside and your outside. So there's a couple of ways you can tell the outside. The rubber is always on the exterior or the outside of the door. The striker plate always faces out, so that's outside, and just check that the logos should be at the bottom right hand corner. So I always set them out to make sure everything's in order, because it's easy to just grab a door and hang it, and then, you know, once you've got the other one, you've realised you've put it around the wrong way or upside down back to front. So I always set it out, make sure everything's all good, and then you can go to the next stage, which is putting your hinges on. Three hinges per door, 100mm in, describe a little mark, and same as the other side. And then centre, which should be about 1005. I'll just check that the other way to 1006, so I'll just come in a millimetre. So that's my centre. With the hinges, you can see a deformity in that one, so that sits in the channel. It sits naturally, so if you had it the other way, you can see that's sitting proud, so that's incorrect. That deformity or deviation sits in that channel, so you can see that sits nice and flush and nicely. The barrel of the hinge is facing out, so the door opens out, and I can tell that's my outside of the door with the striker, and we've got rubber in here too, so it's always good to double check that. So I'll sit that hinge on that 100 mark, and then I will tack that in. So it's good to have your Z10 screws on hand, and that's a square 1 bit. Square 1. Never use a rattle gun for this. Always a drill. I usually put it on a screw rather than drill, and have a clutch setting, so you don't strip the screw or damage anything. So I know the setting on this drill is about 17 on clutch, and then I generally put the middle one in first, just in case things slip and you need to reset the hinge. You want to get that really nice and centered, and I just back it off to clean out the hole, get any of that swarf out. Otherwise your screw might not sit nice and flush. And there's my clutch kicking in, and that's easy as. And it's just rinse and repeat. Back off, get that swarf out. So I've backed off, and that's sitting really nicely. All right, cool. So we're about to hang the doors. So again, I've just laid them out with the correct orientation where they're going to go. So we've got the rubber on the outside, logos down the bottom right, hinges facing out, which is good for with the barrel, and our internal lock is always on the inside. So it's always good to set them out, make sure we've put the hinges on the right way. And similar with this one, we've got the striker facing outwards, so that receives the latch. So normally we've got a slab that comes up to the bottom, the underside of the door, but they're pouring a thicker slab in here. So we've just put some dunnage, chopped this up basically to the height that we need. So we'll sit that in there and then just check our tolerances up the top. So get all your hinges facing out, try and put the door perpendicular. By doing that, you've got plenty of room to get a drill and access in there. If you have it kind of semi-closed, you're going to have trouble getting the drill in there. So we've just put a couple of packers under there. I generally use a little spatula or putty knife. This one's about maybe 2 mil thick. So I'm putting that on the top of the door, and I want it to go on the underside of the jamb. And if that's nice and snug like it is there, that's usually a good result to hang the door. If you want to come in closer, now we just put a couple of screws in the middle slot. Not in the holes. And we line it up. There's a sight line on the jamb down there. So that goes in the middle of the slot on the sight line. And similar to how we did the hinges, I'll just reverse it to clear the swarf out of the hole. That's nice and snug. And then we'll put another tack in the slots in the middle and down the bottom. So again, we just need to adjust that door so we're on the sight line and in the middle of the slot only. One more. The reason we put the screw just in the middle of the slot is once we get to adjusting it, which will happen when both doors are on, if we put the screw in the middle, we can move the door up and down. For example, if you put it just in at the top, you'd only be able to move the door up. So you want to have that movement either way to adjust the doors. Cool, so we'll do a little test on that one just to see that it's closing and sitting in quite nicely. Beauty. Yes, that's pretty mean. Cool. Okay, so once we've got both doors hung and we've got them aligning nicely at the top, we can safely screw the other two top and bottom holes off. So it's the same process, just get that Z10 screw nice and centered. Back off to get that swarf out. And it's just literally rinse and repeat for all the other holes. Cool, so once you've got those hinges screwed off and we're all nicely aligned, just check we've got a nice even gap in the middle there and that the striker's getting that the latch nicely. Everything's looking nice and tidy there. The door's functioning well. Happy days.